I'm Saion Gupta and I'm 12 years old. I'm the founder of 10xcoderkids.com, and if you like this video, please don't forget to smash the like button and share this video with as many people as you can. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, kindly do it so that you don't miss any of my videos. So without any delay, let's get started, and today we are going to learn about some features of ES12. So some new features of ES12 that are very cool and I would like to share with you. So without any delay, let's get started. First we'll start with promise.any. So the promise.any method takes an iterable of promises, promise objects, and resolves if any of those promises gets resolved. So this is very much like the promise.all method that was there already. So we have an error promise that will reject the promise. We have two promises that will resolve. One will resolve after 200 milliseconds and the next one will resolve after 500 milliseconds. Right? So we are not doing promise. Okay, sorry. I'll just comment out this part. We'll see all of this over here right now, but let's focus on this now. So we have promise.any. It is getting an iterable of promises, error p1 and p2, right? Dot then it will resolve, right? So we are getting the response, right? So and in the response we'll get the first promise that was resolved. So if any of the promises get resolved, we'll in the response we'll get the first promise that was resolved. So we are logging out response. So if we come here and reload this, more tools, developer tools, and in the console, just widen this because our work is only with the console. So over here we are seeing first promise, as this was the first promise to resolve, and one of the promises in the iterable resolved. So the first promise that was resolved, that its response is coming over here in this res parameter that we are logging out. So the response of the first promise that was resolved was this, that was giving us first promise. So in response we are getting first promise, and then we log out response, so we get first promise. Very cool. I'll just show you the all methods very similar to this, but in this, instead of one of the promises being resolved, if all the promises are resolved, then only we get a response, and in the response also we'll get the first promise that was resolved. So over here, one of the promises giving is an error, so the we will not see the response, and it over here rejected and threw a new error, so we are getting that new error. But if we just remove this over here and remove this from here also, and then if I run this, so okay, so I was also wrong, so I got to learn also. So over here we get an array of the uh, whenever if in promise.all, whenever uh, all the promises are resolved, then in response we get an array. We get an array of all the results of the promises, right? And then finally we have the race method. So in this, what will happen? Let me revert. So we have the race method. In this, what will happen? Whichever promise resolves first, regardless if it is reject. Sorry, whichever promise completes first, regardless if it is being resolved or rejected, then basically um, that we will get in response. So over here, as you can see, this will happen after 200 milliseconds, this will happen after 500 milliseconds, but this will happen immediately. So the error promise is resolved first, so sorry, completed first, so we'll get the error over here, right? So we'll get the error. But if the error promise was not resolving first, then we'll get the result of P1. Very cool, right? So now we'll continue. So the new aggregator class, aggregate error class helps us to catch exceptions of the promise.any method. For example, if all the so this class is also a new class introduced in ES12. So uh, so this new class, um, for example, if all the promises passed in promise.any are rejected, it will throw an aggregate error object that we can catch, right? So over here, as you can see, we have E1 and E2, both are being rejected, right? And then we do promise.any E1 E2 dot then response. If one of the promises was resolved, we get response, but none of them was resolved, so we get an aggregate error. So it will come into catch because we are catching that error. We get the error and we're just logging out the error. So we'll see that there was an aggregate error received by us. That aggregate error, all promises were rejected. It is stating that straightforward. Next we have weak ref, and this is also a very interesting concept. So as the name suggests, weak ref is a weak reference to another object. A weakly referenced object will not be kept in memory as long as it is not strongly referenced. For example, you have a function, right? So you have a function, there you create a weak ref. So next time the garbage collector um, starts collecting the objects, right, that are of no use, then it will see it will collect the weak reference object also. uh, it will collect the weak reference object also, uh, you'll read this, right? First we'll read this and then we'll read this. So JavaScript uses this garbage collection algorithm to wipe out objects in memory that are no longer referenced by other objects. So when we create a weak ref object, it can be garbage collected at any time. So for example, you are in a function and have declared a weak ref. Then that can be garbage collected the next time the garbage collector runs, and that can be before the function ends. So basically your function hasn't ended, your weak ref is inside the function, the garbage collector runs, that weak ref, right, will uh, that weak ref can be garbage collected before the function ends, right? So very cool. So over here you can see we have a student object, we have a reference, weak reference to it, right? And then we are logging out reference.deref.age. So we can use the deref method to access the weak reference if it is still available in the memory, if it is not garbage collected by the garbage collector. So this is accessing our student object, and then we are bringing the age. So not basically the student of object, it is not referring. So basically this will access our, yeah, so it will access a student object over here. So it will deref, right, it will dereference the weak ref, right, and we'll get the student object and we'll just um, log out its age, right? So if we do this now, we get 20, right? Because if it would have been garbage collected, we would most of probably had seen an error or undefined, but it was not garbage collected, and before that only we used it, we logged out the value in it of age. So that's why it shows us the age 20. So even though weakref is useful to save some memory, the authors of weakref advise avoiding it at all times if possible. The reason being the complicated behavior of garbage collectors in different JavaScript engines. To be pretty straightforward. So now let's move on to private class methods. So since the introduction of classes for JavaScript in ES6, methods and properties have been public by default. Even though developers use the underscore prefix, right? So we use the underscore prefix to um, uh, create a private method. So to know that this is a private method and it can only be accessed within the class. But still, it was merely a convention only. So it didn't stop anyone from accessing private properties from outside the class. But with ES12, JavaScript has enabled a creation of private methods and properties natively. So to create one, we have to prefix the identifier with a hash, right? So over here, as you can see, we have our auth class, right? And then we have get token method. So now we have given hash in front of get token. So now this is a private method, and if you try to access it outside of the class, this won't work. We have the isauth method that will basically return whatever value we get from get token. So right now this example is pretty useless, right? It is not that useful, but you can have it. You can use this very cleverly. Like for example, you have some credentials that you don't want to reveal. You can have a private method, and in that you can save all the credentials. So next, in your main method where you want to use the credentials, and like for example API key, right? You can save the API key in get token, right? So you could have a private property token, right? Not a method, a private property token, and then you can access that token property in your authentic your bringing function, the function that is using the API, that is fetching from the API, right? And that API key you don't want anybody else to access out of the class, so you keep it private, right? So this is one example, but right now this is a very useless example. We have constant auth, and that is an object of our auth class. We are logging out auth.getToken. This will bring us an error, and then when we log out auth.isauth, this will give us 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So right now we'll see the error, and it will just terminate the program. Uncaught syntax error, private field get token must be declared in enclosing class. Very good. Now if we comment this and try to access isauth, this will work perfectly, right? So it is working perfectly. Very cool. So similar to private methods and properties, we can define private accessors like getters and setters using the same syntax. The same syntax is used to give private getters and setters. For example, you have your class auth, you have your getter get token that is private, that will return local storage or get item token, and then you have a set type, setter set token, right? And this is also private, and you get token, and you will just set item token, a token in local storage, and its value will be token. And then you have your settle login that will get token, and it will basically use the private setter to set the token in your local storage. And then getter is isauth, one more getter is isauth, and this will return you this dot get token, right? So this will uh, return us the value of the token by accessing um, the private getter. So we have our token 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. We have constant auth. Yeah, auth is an object of our auth class. Auth.login equals token. So auth.login. So we are using its login setter and setting the token. So now it will set an item token in our local storage, and then we'll log out auth.isauth. So this is using the get token getter inside, and then bringing a value of token, right? So right now when we run this, we'll have a token inside our local storage, and that will be shown on the screen. So that is shown on the screen, and if we check local storage now, we have token 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Very cool. So now we'll just move on very quick to some logical operators that were introduced in ES12, right? So we have logical null assignment, logical and assignment, and logical or assignment. So what is the logical nullish assignment? So the logical nullish assignment operator question mark equals to will assign the value of the right operand to the left will assign the value of the right operand to the left operand only if the left operand is null or undefined. So the if over here, for example, let's see this example. You have constant person named John. we are doing person.name and we are using the nullish assignment operator equals question mark equals user1. So right now, name property of person is not undefined or null, so that's why it won't change it to user1. And when we log out person.name, we'll get John. And when we are doing person.age equals question mark equals to nullish assignment 18. Age is undefined right now, so it will create a property age inside person and set its value to 18. Then we log out person.age, so that will be 18. So we'll get John and 18 right now. John and 18, right? Very cool thing, very cool stuff. Now we have logical and assignment. So the logical and assignment operator and an equals will perform the assignment if the left operand is truthy, right? So if the left operand is truthy, meaning its value is some true value, then only it will set the value of the left operand to the right operand. So for example, you have product over here and stocks equals to 10. You do product dot stocks and an equals 20. So because it has a value that evaluates to true, it will set it to 20. We log out product.stocks so that it will show us 20. Then we do product.expiry and an equals to this. Expiry is undefined, so that is evaluating to false. So it will not set the value of expiry, and when we try to access it, we'll get undefined. So it will show us 20 and undefined. Very cool. Next we have logical OR assignment. So the logical OR assignment operator, that is pipe equals, is similar to the nullish assignment, but the left operand should be false for the assignment to occur. So not undefined or null, it should be false. A value is considered false if it is null, undefined, false, 0 or NaN. So this example over here is very good example. We have constant product, we have stocks and expiry. Product.stocks, pipe equals 10, right? So stock is 0, that's why it is evaluating to false. So that's why it is setting stocks to 10. Then we log out stock, so we'll get 10. Next we do product.expiry and we use the logical OR assignment. So because expiry has a value that is truthy, that's why it won't change the value of expiry, and you'll get that 12, 31, 20, 21 expiry, right? So we'll get this expiry and product.stocks will show us 10. So it will show 10 and that 12 expiry thing. Quite cool. Next we have string.replace. Also the purpose of replace all method is to replace all the substrings inside a string. In previous ES versions, if we wanted to do this, we had to use the replace method. In the replace method, only the first occurrence would be replaced if you used a string as the first argument. Therefore, we would set the first argument as a regular expression to replace all the occurrences. So in other ES versions, what you had to do, you had to do let string. You have a string over here where you want to replace dog. So if you use the replace method, you will have to create a new. Okay, I'll make this small. Okay, so yeah. So over here, yeah, what you will have to do, you will have to replace, and you will say new regular expression, right? And then you say dog and replace dog globally to cat. But now this is okay, this is fine, but this is not very pleasing. When you write this, you'll have to refer somewhere. You will not always, probably not always remember the syntax, and the syntax is not easy to understand. So for a beginner, he won't know what is happening over here. For a beginner who will be seeing your code, right? So this is working. You're getting hot cat as you wanted to, but this is not very pleasing to eyes. So ES12 has made it a lot simpler for us, and we now what we'll have to use, we just have to use the replace all method. So over here we give a string that replace all, and replace everywhere dog by cat, and then log out string. So over here also we'll get hot cat, but if a beginner sees this, he'll know. Okay, So there's hot dog dog. I want to replace everything, some string that I want to replace everywhere in this whole string, and that some string is dog. So everywhere in this whole string, I want to replace dog. And by what? I want to replace it by cat. So very cool stuff. Very easy to use now. Replace all method. Very uh, nice feature. Next, we have the numeric separators. This is a simple yet useful feature that was already available in browsers thanks to the V8 engine, but now it comes integrated with ES12. Numeric separators are underscores that help us separate large numbers. So, for example, you have a billion. It would not be easy to write billion like 10000, right? And if this was not named billion, you would have to first see, right? Like it will be difficult for you to know what value it is if you don't have some kind of comma separator, right? So in maths we have a comma separator, right? To separate to have a separate large numbers, right? But over here, we had nothing. But now in ES12, we are able to add underscores to separate large numbers. So in billion, we have added underscores, and this is very easy to understand now. If we log out the billion value, this will show no underscores. It won't show us underscores. It will show it normal in billion because the browser will ignore the underscores. Numeric separators make developers' lives easier when working with large numbers. And this was it, guys, for this video. I hope you guys liked the video, guys. If you did, please don't forget to smash the like button and share this video with as many people as you can. Thank you, guys. Bye. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep watching my videos.